Now, we're ready to start the next match, and the first matchup after this break is going to be between IdrA and SjoW. So, without further ado, let's call for IdrA. Give it up for IdrA, everybody. So, IdrA, you just pretty much, like, two months ago, you won the IEM China. How are you feeling after that? Or have you kept your game still going in a high level?
Yeah, I think I've been playing really well since then. IPL was a bit of an iffy tournament for me, but still some good wins. And then MLG, I had a really, really good run. ESWC again was iffy, but I was just not playing very well there, so I still feel pretty good.
So you're feeling confident for tonight's matches?
Yeah, definitely.
All right. And as a contender for him, we're going to call SjoW. Everybody give a warm welcome for SjoW. So, SjoW, how are you feeling?
I feel pretty good.
Okay, you won the IESF World Championships. How does it feel to be a world champion in Starcraft?
Well, it feels good, obviously, but it's not really like WCG, so well, it's kind of like mixed feelings for that.
Okay, so if you both are ready, if you could shake hands for good sportsmanship and take your places, and I will give it to dApollo and TotalBiscuit.
If you just tuned in, ladies and gentlemen, you'll be missing out on some fantastic matches. And there we go. We've also been missing out on some fantastic microphones. They're now enabled. It's wonderful. But before we get started, we've actually got something very special. So a lot of you probably don't know this.
Unless you've got an iPhone. Unless,
of course, you've got an iPhone. You've been paying attention to Twitter or Reddit. But there is a very, very famous caster indeed. One of the casting Archon parts, I suppose. You can't really call him a individual within that merging.
Yeah.
Whatever the case, he goes by the name of Artosis, and he is going to be a dad, ladies and gentlemen. So let's hear it for Artosis. And now many jokes are going to be made at his expense.
Yeah, his multitasking's pretty bad, so...
Well, we could say something about his wife who is about to fast expand, but...
I heard it was a Nidus network.
I should have force-fielded the ramp. I just wanted the opportunity to get those out there before every other caster does it. So I'm feeling good about that now. We can be the first, and now Dan will hate me forever.
TM on that.
That's how it's done.
But
anyway,
yeah.
Let's talk about this matchup.
IdrA versus SjoW. This is going to be a pretty good game, I think. Obviously, the favorite going into this is most definitely EG's IdrA. Despite his ESWC kind of flop in the round of 16, apart from that, he's been absolutely phenomenal recently.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, ever since he won IEM China, everything's just been going well for him. He's had a lot of tournament luck. He's been performing well. And even in that ESWC where he got knocked out by LiveZerg so early on, is that he went 10-1 in maps in the group. And that is incredible. And then, like he mentioned in the interview as well, finishing 4th at MLG, the most recent one. That's a great feat as well. And the SjoW, on the other hand, though, is the IESF champion. Though he did have an easy road to the final.
Yeah, he did have to deal with Grubby, didn't he? Who's been on amazing form lately. But aside from that, not a lot of big-name players, not a lot of incredibly strong players in that run. So we shall see, though. And SjoW is a very consistent player. He's won tournaments back in the beta. He continues to win tournaments now. He's very, very solid. So it'll be interesting. I think IdrA's TVZ at the moment is incredibly scary.
Yeah, I mean, the way he deals with Mulisk is absolutely amazing. The control he has, you will see in this series, that it's just, out of this world good. But on the other hand, SjoW's TVZ against Zerg is not his best matchup by far. I mean, when he played in the Code A, he lost in a clean sweep 0-2 against Curious, and it made him look bad. And it's always been his weakest matchup too. Even in Europe, in European tournaments, he loses a lot versus Zergs. Though, the one thing we have to keep in consideration going into this game is we have a very predictable IdrA that does the same thing over and over and over versus a very slow and intelligent player who is very creative and will most definitely adapt to the situations given. In a best-of-5 series, he's got a lot of leeway.
Definitely, and our players are ready to get started, so we are as well. Looking forward to this one. It's guaranteed to be a fantastic matchup between these two wonderful players. And here we go, the countdown has now started, and the first map will be Terminus SE.
Indeed, it will be a nice large map. And looking at the vetoes, we had SjoW veto out Metalopolis, a nice favored Zerg map. And on the other hand, we actually had IdrA get rid of Xel'Naga Caverns.
Nobody likes Xel'Naga Caverns anymore, especially not this
I remember last year in DreamHack Winter, it was like the most chosen map. Until everyone found out they can't expand to a third base.
Yeah, I think that's when the Zerg started to really dislike it.
Yeah.
Whatever the case, that's what we've got. No Xel'Naga Caverns for you, and here we go. Ladies and gentlemen, it is my pleasure to introduce to you an incredibly famous player, an incredibly accomplished and skilled and talented player. He's from Team Evil Geniuses. Ladies and gentlemen, let me hear some noise for the one and only IdrA. Popular player here as well, and well-deserved. He's in the blue trunks playing Zerg to the south, and over here in the long rush positions all the way across to the other side, we have a wonderful and fantastic player from Team Dignitas, a constant performer throughout the beta, and up until this day, continues to win tournaments and show matches all over the place. Ladies and gentlemen, his name is SjoW. Let's hear it for him. Of course, he's playing Terran to the north.
Yeah, and SjoW's most recent nickname, not really public, it's actually Lazy Brucey, being Brucey his last name.
Wait, what?
Lazy Brucey was the nickname that Koreans gave him in Korea because he was consistently sleeping instead of practicing, and he was also very slow on the keyboard. So they called him rather lazy, and they were surprised about how many tournaments he had actually won. Even though the Koreans hadn't really played against him, they were losing to him as well in the pro house within the personal tournament they have there. And they didn't know how. It's another player, very slow, just like Elfie, yet has really good, consistent results.
It's not just about speed.
Yeah, it's not. I mean, he may suffer from it in the later stages, which is where I feel maybe his downfall within this series. This first map, a nice large map, cross positions, going to be extremely hard for SjoW to get some timing pushes in there. And the other map, actually, straight after this, Taldrum Altar, another humongous map. So it may be difficult given this map pool, but on the other hand, for IdrA, it's looking pretty good.
Yeah, and that it would perhaps give IdrA that early 2-0 lead, which would be very, very strong. Speaking of strong, that is a gutsy opening right here from SjoW. Putting the barracks down to the bottom here, really fast expansion from him.
Yeah, I mean, this is the predictable IdrA. There's like 0% chance that IdrA's ever going to 6-pull you on a big map, unless he's in that mind frame where he can't be bothered to play anymore. But right now, he's just playing standard, lane spawning pool. So SjoW is going to take the initiative and go ahead and get command center first. So he's going to have a really strong economy going into this mid game. He may not have units right now to deal with any attacks, but there's none coming. Yeah,
there are no attacks. Really, what can he do? He's not going to throw drones at you. That's not going to happen. And IdrA, of course, will expand. He's gone a gasless expansion, which is really common for him as well. He tends to only grab the extractor much later. Although, I mean, we talk about IdrA's play being predictable, but he does have several kind of sets of moves and routines that he goes through. And sometimes he does grab the gas earlier, sometimes he doesn't. He seems to prefer not doing so and delaying speed for the longest time, droning up very, very heavily. And the thing about doing that against SjoW, I suppose, is you never know when SjoW's going to bust out something a little bit crazy. Is he going to break out a Banshee? Is he going to get really aggressive with Hellions? Is he just going to push in with Marines? And it is unpredictable. He's creative and he's very, very flexible.
And I have a feeling that IdrA, seeing this, he hasn't got gas, he has no option to be aggressive against it, is going to take a very, very early third base here, 5-minute mark. And he's going to play the regular 2-base Spire, but is just going to add the third, so that the timings of everything will just be multiplied by a little bit, an extra 2 minutes onto the regular timing, but it should be coming out pretty much the same. IdrA loves his Mulus play as well, and I'd be relatively surprised if he didn't opt to do that, and making good use of these Zerglings already, taking down the back rocks, making a pathway for flank attacks and counter attacks as the game does drag on.
Yeah, as you should really. Always start to break down those rocks. A very important thing to do. Also breaking off a single Zergling here just to keep an eye out, see if there's anything coming in this direction. Right now, SjoW just playing a hyper-defensive at this point. Interestingly, breaking out a single Hellion and not adding on anything to that factory.
Yeah, well, this guy is the Blind Terran, as he has been nicknamed previously. Is not scouted at all, not with a single SCV, so he has no idea where IdrA is. So he will be using the single Hellion to go ahead and scout out what is going on around this map. Meanwhile, adding a second factory as well. So we may be seeing some mid-game Blue Flame Hellion action against the predictable IdrA that likes to go straight for Mulus, not really go heavy Ling or Roach early on.
Yeah, potentially. And while Blue Flame Hellions are not as popular as they once were, they're still effective. And with the kind of control that SjoW's got, that could work out for him.
And we do have a third base going down for SjoW. He's opting to keep up with IdrA, knowing that IdrA is probably going to be taking that third base. And in comes the Hellion, scouts a single spine crawler. And that's about it. He doesn't know the third base is up or not. He doesn't know any timings. And that is a weakness with SjoW, because he doesn't scout enough a lot of the time.
Yeah.
He may be thinking that it's just the standard 2-base spire, which means Mulus are going to be out around 9 minutes. And he has no idea about that third base. He can just assume.
Yeah, his assumption might even be based on this, what he saw there. He actually saw a creep tumor very, very close to the ramp. It can indicate that you're trying to join up creep and that you've already got a third base. But, as you said, it is an assumption. It might not be there for that reason. In the meantime, what's SjoW doing? Well, he's got the command center up, he's grabbing the armory, and he's got the starport on the way as well. His marine count is not particularly high, so I expect at this point we are looking for mech play from him going forward.
Well, Mr. Fields has to be rather careful as these Blue Flame Hellions are on the way now. Blue Flame's about halfway complete, and there's not that many Lings out. He does have a Bailey Nest on a regular timing, but, you know, these Hellions may be able to run by it and do a lot of damage. He just doesn't have that much, and I do not think that IdrA is expecting Blue Flame whatsoever. And we are having this mech play come out from SjoW, which is really different from his usual standard play.
Yeah, that's the variance that SjoW could put in, and he's got to be a little bit careful there. Blue Flame is not complete, however, there's not enough Zerglings to assault that. IdrA is aware of this, is producing more Zerglings and getting some Banelings out on the field as well. Does not have Baneling speed, so engaging those Hellions is still going to be a little bit difficult. Baneling speed now starting for him. In the meantime, we've actually got a drop coming in.
Yeah, we do have a Medivac coming down, which will be able to elevate these units into the main base, though IdrA does have good creep spread in his main base, with Banelings as well. He may be able to defend this, but you have to remember there's a lot of Hellions here, and with Blue Flame, I think that SjoW is going to be able to capitalize on this and do a lot of economic damage to IdrA.
Yeah, it really depends on how quick SjoW can get a lot of Hellions up into the base. Assuming he even does that, it looks like he's actually backing a lot of those off. He's only going to drop 4 in, which is certainly not enough to kill anything, and SjoW now backing off immediately, having realized that IdrA is well aware of what his plan is. But the question is, does he actually know about the sheer number of Hellions that SjoW currently has?
Oh, they're going to run into the natural at the same time while just playing around with this drop, and there's nothing there, just 2 spine crawlers. But Lings, 4 Lings do appear, which does push him back, but at the same time baiting around, looking for a hole in IdrA's base.
Yeah, and this could be dangerous. If SjoW executes this very well, then this is going to be really, really nasty for IdrA. IdrA now micro against that. So well defended there, but a really quick grab there by SjoW, making sure that he gets out of there with 3 of them, and is now going to the natural, and IdrA moving into defend against this. That Medivac is really, really low, and SjoW is not willing to drop there. Oh, the interception comes in, and it's not quite enough. Great control there by SjoW.
Yeah, it's going to be able to get out, and he didn't really achieve anything, and now he has to deal with 12 Mutalists about to come out. He has got mech, so he does have Thors, but the low count of Thors, and especially the way that IdrA controls with Magic Box against them and be able to surround and minimize the splash damage, you're going to be able to pick them off relatively easy. And he is going double Vikings. The thing is, he hasn't got any strategically placed turrets inside the main base, which may be a problem.
Yep, SjoW going for a little bit of harassment right here as the Mutalists clean up all of the Hellions over there. Damage done was bare minimum. It was only 5, and most of those Hellions have now been cleaned up. IdrA taking a reasonable amount of map control, and a couple of Vikings now moving out to deal with those Overlords hanging around on the outside of the base. But IdrA now moving in with that force of Mutas, and we know how dangerous IdrA is with a large Mutalist count.
Yeah, his control is so well, and it's not just his control, it's his knowing when and where he can go in and do the damage. Like, if he sees his Thor, he should be able to jump on it and